Well, hello, Dedee. Thank you so much for being here on Illuminate Magazine. My name is Rachelle Henry, and I'm very honored to have you here with me today.
Thank you, Rachelle, for having me.
So, you have had quite the career, and you have been in so many projects, and I love Big Sky. I was actually binge watching it before we ever scheduled this interview. I loved it, and we will dive into that in a little bit. But first, how about we take it back to the beginning? I think everyone can guess that you come from a family that we all know who your famous sister is. I kind of want to know a little bit also about your childhood. Do you have any funny stories or memories from back then, like prior to becoming the actress you are today?
We were a pretty average, below average kind of, all American family, four kids, mom and dad. Mom never drove, didn't work. My father, blue collar worker, they were from North Dakota. It was Rick, Michelle, me, and then my little sister Lori. Rick and Michelle were born in the 50s, and Lori and I were born in the 60s. So you have two different generations of
Oh, wow.
kids. And so times were really very different then. um, we kind of raised each other, considering the dynamics of my parents and what have you. Lori and I were the stereotypical little sisters chasing Michelle around, getting into her shit. Her makeup, her clothes, her Roger Daltrey T-shirt, which I was obsessed with, and I kept stealing. And oh my God, she was so mad. Get into her makeup, like she's not going to notice that we gouged the blue eyeshadow. Like she would come out with it. She's like, really? My brother was smart. He just kind of skated through life, really trying not to be in the family dynamics. Rick and Shell are really close, and Lori and I are close. But now as adults, we're all really close together. As for family stories, it's just like the same stuff. One of us would get in trouble, and we'd all get smacked. Lori ran around skating all the time. I remember her, she was just skating, And then Shell was always getting in trouble because she was the first girl. And then Rick, like I said, was really silent. And I was always like rearranging furniture and cleaning because I was the middle daughter, so very stereotypical middle daughter. People pleaser, always cleaning and trying to make harmony in the house for the most part. I was born in 64. So when I was young, I worked because, like I said, four kids. My mom never drove or worked, so my dad was a blue collar worker. So we did not have a lot of money growing up. So if we wanted something, we had to work for it. That's it. Bottom line, that's how we were raised. You want it, you earn it. No one's going to give it to you. So I was working really young as a kid, any job I could possibly get, because I wanted stuff at Kmart. So I'm like, well, then I have to go get a job somewhere and make some money so I could go get that thing at Kmart. The Bonnie Bell big thick lip thing, this thing called Bonnie Bell. They were lip moisturizer. Oh, they were the best. Anyway, so I worked since really young age. Child labor, yes, we didn't have that back then. There was no such thing. But then by the time I was 18, I had worked a lot of jobs, danced in the Disneyland parade, picked up, dropped off radiators at gas stations and drove them to the radiator shop. They would fix them and I'd drive them back, which is a dude's job. Yes, they did not like me doing a new dude's job, but I got paid really good, really well. I got
Girl boss right there.
Yeah, no, I was doing stuff that like normally girls in Orange County weren't doing. I also worked at a female oil and mud wrestling joint. Illegally caught cocktail. Yep. I did not ever get into the pit with the old mud wrestlers or the mud wrestlers. I was illegally cocktailing, so that's much better. So I did that for a while. Like I said, Disneyland Parade. I worked as a bus girl. I slung tables. Just really everything you can imagine I did. So when I was 18, I was like, what am I going to do? And college was never really like something my parents ever talked about because they didn't go to college. So they were always saying though in school about college. And I was like, well, why would I want to keep going to school? Like, I'm done. This is nuts. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. So at that point, Shell was doing Scarface. So, and I had been up there a few times to LA. So I said, hey, I think I want to try this thing called acting. And like everything else, if I don't like it, or if I get bored with it, I'll just quit and do something else. So she told me to immediately get into an acting workshop. That's what happened. She said, don't even think about an agent or anything like that. Just get into an acting workshop and see if it's something you even like. So I went to the best acting workshop, Peggy Fury's, called The Loft at the time. She was huge. And I started studying and I did not know what I was doing. I was like scared shitless. I stuttered. I couldn't memorize my lines. I didn't know about character study. And it was the most haunting, scary thing I'd ever done. I was like, oh my God. But I couldn't quit because I would have felt like a failure had I not mastered it in some way or figured it out. So I just kept studying for 2 years.
Well, I think you're amazing. I think you're very talented. In fact, one of the big projects that you worked on was a series called Sybil. You played Sybil Shepherd's oldest daughter, Rachel Blanders, and it was a sitcom series. Now, Rachel was known for her uptight attitude. She was pretentious. I actually watched an episode, I think it was the pilot, and it was so interesting to see the family dynamics. You have Sybil, you have her ex-husbands, you have her children, you have her boyfriends, her friends. Just the dynamics between the group were so quirky and interesting. And your character mixes in and has her own place in the story. They each have their own personalities that tie in perfectly with whatever Sybil's up to. So what were the dynamics like on set? And did you have any inspiration for like anyone in mind that you were basing Rachel off of?
Well, when I got that show, I was in shock. Pretty much like whenever I get any job. But it was my very first series. I guest starred, but I'd never been a series regular. So I was very much a deer in the headlights. And it was crazy that I got the pilot, and even more crazy that it went to show. But at that point, my best friend, who's still with us, I lost him to AIDS, Kenny, he used to give me these recordings, because I didn't have TV then, only a VCR, of the show called Ab Fab. It was hugely popular in Europe, but not so much here. And from what I understand, Sybil, the show was coined around this show.
Oh, wow.
And I had watched it, but when I read for Sybil, I never got the correlation that my character was very much like the daughter in Ab Fab, who's uptight. The mother's just whacked, right? Really just, her and her friend are always getting in trouble, and the daughter's really uptight. And I never realized that that was my character. So when I read for it, I just kind of used my acting chops, my skills to create an uptight character. And it wasn't until probably about a year into the show, I went, Candy, my friend would say, Dee, you're playing the Ab Fab daughter. And I went, oh shit, I am. So it's loosely, well, it was coined after the Ab Fab daughter. But I was just seriously really young, and I was just hanging on by the seat of my pants, trying to act like I knew what I was doing, and everything was brand spanking new. I kept holding on to my character. And yeah, I remember being really nervous and going up on my lines and thinking, oh, they hate me, they're gonna fire me. Yeah, looking back now, I'm like, I should have just chillaxed. You can't tell somebody to chillax when they're uptight. It's like the worst thing you can do, right? Is
Right.
maybe just to be nervous and use it. How about that? Because then you're not fighting against, what's really authentically going on. But I was really young too. So it's kind of nice getting older, by the way.
Well, along with Sybil and every other thing you've been on, you've worked on so many series. You've worked on Friends, Seinfeld, Supernatural, Murder, She Wrote. You were big in the cult classic Vamp, so many amazing projects. What has been the biggest lesson you've learned from working on any of these shows? And do you have a particular set experience that has really stuck with you?
Wow. And by the way, it took me to get sober. I'm almost 4 years sober. Yeah, thank you. Almost 4 years ago, I took a year off and just worked on my sobriety and my addiction and all the trauma that goes with that, or at least for me, that went hand in hand. And in the process of really working on all my stuff, what I realized is that there's this internal dialogue that we have with ourselves that is horrendous. And in the way we talk to ourselves, there's no way I would ever talk to another human being. So I think for me, not just going along for 30 plus years blindly, not knowing how to address my addiction or my trauma and everything else in my life, I was able to put a lot of that into my work, which is fantastic. I mean, that's kind of what you want, right? Is to take every life experience that you've seen and inject that into your work. In a way that's therapeutic in its own way. And yet, when you're not working, you're left with all that stuff, right? Big Sky is the first project I've done sober and with my sober legs. And one thing I've learned is to watch that internal narrative, to challenge it, right? To say, wait a minute, what evidence do I have to support that thought that just happened?
Right.
If there's no evidence, then shut the F up, Dedee. Just get out of your own way and be in the moment and, reground yourself. Also, I think being transparent and honest and laying boundaries down with love, because I never knew how to do that, especially as an actor. I knew how to do it or not do it at all. And when I would finally get pushed into a corner, I'd lay a hatchet down of boundaries, Other people didn't even realize that that was a boundary. One thing we have to learn as artists and as women and as people and men and theys, that first of all, discover what your damn boundaries are to begin with. And then try a beautiful way to communicate that with the other person and lay the boundary down with love.
Exactly. Especially in this career path where things are subjective and where people make assumptions looking at photos of us. You work hard, you're talented, you're beautiful. At the end of the day, it's ultimately you have to love you.
I took off for 10 years to go to school, got some degrees because I wanted to help people and what have you. And 10 years later, I came back to Big Sky. That whole 10 years, I was just in college. And I never looked in the mirror other than brush my hair and brush my teeth and run out, and then you're in college all day raising 2 boys on my own and going to school and have a learning disability and just make sure to get to karate and then write the paper. So 10 years went by and I started aging. I didn't notice until I got on Big Sky and I went, when did all that happen? So I was like, oh, hell no. So I started calling my actor friends. Now I have all these social worker friends. But now I call my actor friends. They're like, oh, honey, this is what we're doing. We're doing a little bit of this. We're doing a little bit of that, or some are doing a lot of that. And I'm like, no, little bits is good. And what's this filter thing? Where's the filter? And I just bang it out with red lips and call it a day,
Red lipstick's always great.
Always. I mean, really, at the end of the day, just do red lips and no one really knows.
Right, exactly. Well, my next question for you actually was going to be about school, because I know that you took the time to go to school. You got your bachelor's degree in psychology, and then you got your master's degree in social work from UCLA. And you have a concentration in mental illness, substance use, and homelessness. And you've talked a little bit about it. Could you touch a little bit more on your inspiration for pursuing that degree? And did you miss the industry at all when you were gone working on that? Or did you just think it was a really refreshing break and coming back to it now has just been an appropriate time?
Yeah, totally the second one. When I started school, I was exhausted from being told no. I was exhausted getting jobs that barely paid me enough to even pay the girl to watch my boys. I was like, wait a minute, I'm just breaking up even here just to make my insurance benefits for my boys. Like I said, I was doing it on my own. At that point, the industry really was changing, and I really kind of like, I wasn't old enough to play the mothers, but I wasn't young enough to play the young girls anymore. I just didn't fit in, and it was getting really tough. And I started seeing a lot of social welfare things going on in the world that were really bothersome, because I'd always done a lot of volunteer work, but I thought this might be a good time to just take a break for a minute. I didn't mean to take 10 years off, but I didn't know. So I said, I think I want to go to college. So in school, I went for a psych degree and then took a left-hand turn when I started looking at the different things I could do. And I decided to go for a social worker's degree because it was more diverse. I got to learn macro, meso, and micro, policy, community, and individual. I learned all about different modalities. I learned about biopsychosocial perspective. It's just a really diverse degree. And within that, my first year internship was with those experiencing homelessness. And I was in the field doing outreach. Oh. The woman in her 50s climbing the side of a freeway with the pit bull. They're like, this woman's nuts. They, of course, threw me out in the field because I was not afraid. So I fit really well in that internship. From there, I started to really understand it from the bowels out. And it's changed my life forever. So I'm a huge advocate for addressing it from a multidisciplinary perspective. It's not a linear problem. It can't be treated that way. And then the entire time of my life, fighting my own addiction, right? I took a year off right before my last year at UCLA for my master's of social work to get sober. So I had my own journey with addiction. So that's where my not just learned from school, but my own learned experience for addiction came in. And mental health, just because I didn't even realize how much trauma that I had been walking around with until it was addressed in rehab. And how addiction's over here and trauma's over here. And they really do need to be treated differently and from different perspectives. I'm glad I don't use that lens. You know, I'm grateful today I don't use that lens of anger or hate or whatever it is.
I love that about you. I love your positivity and I love how open you are about things. And the fact that you have, gone through so much and you've persevered and you genuinely want to help people and you're using your own experiences to help others. You are also inspiring people to go out there and get educated. And
Yeah.
I really admire that you are never too old to get educated. You are never too old to go back to school to learn new things. Because if you're not learning, you're not growing, and you're never too old to grow. So I think it's very admirable
They
that
say
you.
environment will bring you to the light quicker than anything. Don't close yourself off to what life really has. Maybe try a new hobby. You know, I don't know, but try it. Doesn't work, try something else. Doesn't work, try something else. I mean, I've been trying acting for 40 years and still can't figure it out.
But you're amazing at it.
Oh, thank you.
Well, let's talk about one of my favorite roles of yours, Denise Brisbane on Big Sky. She's the office manager for the PI firm Point and Duel on the hit series Big Sky. Your brother-in-law, David E. Kelly, actually created and executive produced the show. And you were telling me about how he just out of the blue messaged you. Could you talk a little bit more about how he pitched the story to you? And did you actually get to read the original CJ Box book, The Highway, and also the Cassie Duel series that Big Sky is based on?
I happen to have this. I never
So
traveled.
cute.
No, I just got this because I just got back from New Mexico. I read the book after I got it. He's a great writer. My God, is he great. Oh, I didn't see it coming when he called, and I was off doing school for 10 years. So I didn't see it coming. He didn't even realize he threw me a lifeline. And then he out of nowhere, he texted me saying, "Hey, you still acting? I got this role named Denise on Big Sky. It's kind of perfect for you." And I text back, "Yes, ESSSSSSSS." And of course, after I was interning in the Department of Mental Health almost to the last year of my master's degree. And I called my sister Shell and go, "David, I think David just hired me." Really? She goes, "Honey, he did." Oh my God. So I read it and I was like, "Oh, I am so perfect for this role." Yeah, I can play this role. And I hadn't, like I said, been acting in 10 years. But what was so great is it wasn't a huge role. It was one of the principal characters. All shows produce 7-year contract, but it wasn't like one of the leads like Jenny or Cassie. And she's kind of like a therapist, which is fantastic because I was a social worker. And, so I was able to bring a lot of my life experience to Denise. We made her sober.
Right. I noticed that.
Yeah, like a lot of Dedee is in. This is the first time in a character that I'm able to paint her with a lot of Dedeeism. So again, she's trying to grow old gracefully. So it was really a blessing, and he didn't even know it. He just threw me this lifeline. And what I love now is being on Big Sky Thursday nights, ABC 10 p.m. And you can binge it on Hulu. That will keep me employed. We're waiting for the 3rd season as we speak. It's given me an opportunity to come back. And a lot of people who followed my career before are now following me again, and new people who are rediscovering me or didn't know my work before have discovered me. And with that, I feel like I'm going to have an opportunity to pull my degree, my learned experience together with that and create hopefully a show one day that helps people on a larger scale. That's my goal one day. But right now, I got to play Denise.
Yes.
I got to make sure that she just keeps Doolin Hoy in check.
Yes.
Those girls are crazy.
I love Denise. She is such a great character. I mean, she's almost like this surrogate mom in the group, but she's also gossipy, but not in a way that would harm anyone. Just like she knows like what's going on with everyone. She knows all the dirt.
Dirt is her currency.
I love her. She's so funny. And of course, you're interacting with that group that works at White and Dual all the time. What is the day-to-day experience working with the cast? And do you have any particular scenes that you had the most fun filming? I was noticing that Denise was out in the field more, starting to get more involved with the cases.
I don't know what the writers are going to do for the 3rd season.
We need more Denise on Big Sky. So I'm crossing my fingers for season 3, Big Sky, ABC, or you can binge it on Hulu like I did. Very worth a binge. Do you have any other projects coming up, and how can people follow you on social media?
Dedee Pfeiffer official. I am working on, like I said, that talk show podcast thing, merging together social welfare issues topics in which I think affect a lot of people, and my friends who are really amazing people who don't ever have the platform to show how they can help. And I want to create a platform for them and then a vehicle for people to see, say, a social welfare topic from a policy, community, and individual level. I think education is super important because I think that everybody can help be part of the solution in different ways. I didn't know I could do A, B, or C and be part of the solution. So my show will be a lot of that. And again, keep people kind of learning, right? And
Right.
curious. And because that's how my education was and now my life journey.
Well, I love your idea for your show. I can't wait to watch it when it's out. Thank you so much for being here with me today. You are such an inspiration. You are a superwoman. You are beautiful and amazing. And it was just an honor to have you here on Illuminate.
Thank you for having me, sweetie. You are amazing too, girl. You go get them.
Thank you. Power women.